It's a new year, and we've got sponsors here at the top of the program, thanks to Patreon. And Toby's got that list.
We do, man. This is awesome. We've got some awesome sponsors that have really helped us along the way. Alex Taylor there at the Ultimate Final Lappers. Thank you, Alex. And we've also got Mr. Devin over there at the Only Mattress Giant level tier. These are our two sponsors of the show. Stay tuned to the end of the show where we talk about all of our Patreon subscribers. We appreciate every one of them as well. But if you'd like to join the sponsor list of the top show, go to patreon.com/the final lap. You can get in there as well. But we've got a lot to talk about this week, Kerry.
Join in on the giving fun. This is the Final Lap Weekly, a show where a couple of guys talk about all things NASCAR. My name's Kerry Murphy, a longtime host, in fact, 20 years of the Final Lap. And our co-host is Toby Christie, founder and editor-in-chief at TobyChristieCom. And I forgot this last week, RacingAmerica.com. That's the biggie, right?
Yes. So we've done some cool stuff, man. We've branched out and we've done some really cool things. So it's good to see another awesome year ahead for both of us and the websites in general, TobyChristieCom, RacingAmerica.com. A lot of really cool stuff in store.
Pretty soon our list is going to be huge at the beginning of the show. He does this and that and this and that.
No joke. And depending on when you're listening to this, there may be a new website layout to TobyChristieCom because it's working right now as we're doing this. They're working on getting things flipped over. So
nice.
It could be active by the time we're done recording this show.
Well, let's get into the race this past weekend at downtown Los Angeles. NASCAR finally listened to us for once and made the right call.
Yes, they decided an unprecedented move. We've never seen it.
Yeah.
We've all asked for it for years. When it looks like an unfavorable weather forecast is coming, just move the damn race up a day. We know it's going to be clean and great on Saturday. Why not just run it on Saturday? Well, they did it. And this could set a new precedent going forward, which I'm pretty excited about, because if we have situations like what happened in LA this time around, we may have a race that actually gets in by moving it up a day. I know it's not the ideal way to do it, but I think it goes without saying that the only way this race got in was by making this call.
Well, let's set the stage. So I live in Los Angeles. The rain literally just stopped Tuesday night, like 11 p.m. We're finally seeing sunny skies. I think it's going to rain again tonight. But so from the end of the NASCAR Mexico series where Daniel Suarez took the checkered flag, like an hour later, the skies opened up and we haven't seen, blue skies in days. So there was no way for NASCAR to get this race in until Wednesday, basically.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a doomsday forecast, and turns out the forecast was pretty accurate. I think that they made the right call. Ultimately, there's no way you can say they didn't, especially with Daytona coming around. You can't be messed around with an exhibition event for that long going into Daytona.
Yeah.
So I think the right move was made. And at the end of the day, Kerry, I know at one point you texted me Z's.
Of course.
I think this was the best edition of the LA Clash to this point out of the three.
Okay. All right. Well, let's back up just a second to clarify that this wasn't just, hey, let's run it on Saturday. There's a lot of moving parts involved in terms of network TV and coverage and the hosts and the pre-race stuff, and the format was completely changed. And so this was a big undertaking for NASCAR to say, all right, we've got to do this because this storm is nasty. I mean, we had flooded roads and all that kind of stuff. This wasn't Los Angeles overreacting. Although I sent you a picture of this, it was very funny. The mayor was on TV with the fire department, and in the background they had jet skis.
Yeah, yes, that's
They're
right.
like, this is going to rain, and it's going to rain a lot. We've got jet skis.
Yeah, so I mean, just some wild weather and stuff that you guys don't usually see down there. I don't think, right? You guys don't.
No,
usually
this
have kind of
was.
weather.
I think parts of LA got 11 inches over the course of a few days. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane. So the fact that this even happened, whether it was moved up a day or not, is incredible. But like you said, the amazing teamwork it took between NASCAR, the television networks, the teams, the city of LA, everybody to get this together on the same page to pull it off with such short notice. They changed it same day, and it was afternoon when they changed it. Afternoon Eastern time, at least.
Right.
On the West Coast, still earlier in the day, but still. The fact they got all that done, turned around, flipped around in time for a Saturday night race was incredible. And ultimately, I'm glad they did it. you don't want to suck the momentum out of a season by starting things off that way. And the
Right.
fact that we got the race in, people, once they got the new schedule out to everyone, knew when it was happening. It was good to have the race get in.
And you mentioned that it became free, a free event for the Saturday night thing. And I guess NASCAR is going to offer some sort of, I don't know, free tickets in the future or refund, or I don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah, they're working on making it right, is what Steve O'Donnell said, for race fans who did purchase tickets for Sunday's event, couldn't make it, or,
Right.
you know, those tickets were then made free for Saturday. So they're working on it. Anybody who made a ticket purchase through, I think it was whatever the ticket partner is for NASCAR plus NASCAR.com, if you bought from there, for sure they've got you covered, but they're working
Right.
on taking steps to make it right for anybody else who maybe bought
Good.
tickets through other sources. So at some point, something will be done for everybody, which is good to see.
All right, so back to the event. Basically, the heat races were eliminated. We had the practice / qualifying, and then the main event.
And you know what's funny? With all the heat races eliminated and the last chance qualifier, I was like, man, that's going to suck. Those are usually pretty compelling. Honestly, the heat races aren't that compelling usually. They're pretty boring. It's usually one guy leads the whole thing. And then the LCQ is where it really gets intense because those guys
Right.
have to go or they get eliminated. I felt like eliminating the heat races was actually a bonus for this race. I thought the qualifying practice actually had a little bit of drama because it was like, okay, these guys are probably going home now because there's no
Right.
LCQ. I think qualifying practice the way it was, and then add the LCQ next time without the heat race garbage, I think you're in good shape. I think that's enough drama. You don't need the heat races.
Who was right? This guy right here.
You
How did I
did.
call that?
You,
How?
you called it. You said that Ryan Blaney would not advance by way of the top 22 spots once you realized he was in by way of the last year's championship provisional, which he
Yep.
got in with. So kudos to you, sir. And what a run he had in the main event, by the way, from
Yeah.
dead last to a podium.
Yeah, that is impressive in itself. I mean, to have a car that was basically garbage enough to be eliminated, otherwise being a champion. Yeah, he moved to the front pretty quick. And that's a tiny track to move to the front with.
Oh, for sure. And it's a track that's been very difficult to pass at. There was a lot of rooting and gouging and bumping going on, which was really good to see. We've been kind of missing that at the short track level the last few years with this next gen car. So it was good to kind of see that the Ford dark horses, the new Mustangs, kind of struggled out of the gates. But once this race started getting going, they started working their way towards the front. And that was kind of good to see as well. It's going to be really interesting to kind of see where people sit with the new Camry and the new Mustang and then the old Chevy still out there, how they're all going to be aero package wise once this season gets going at places we usually go to. But I thought it was a compelling show at the LA Memorial Coliseum.
It for me, I had did double takes for all the cars. I'm like, what's that one? Oh, that's definitely a Chevy. Okay. And then the Fords, you're like, that's a Ford? Wow, okay. I
Yeah,
had to see
it's
the
really
tail
interesting.
lights to confirm it.
It's really, really difficult to keep up with it. They definitely are some pretty slick, different looks for sure than what we're used to seeing.
Yeah.
But overall, like I said, I feel like this was the best clash that we've seen in LA. A lot of people have been kind of saying, why don't we just take it to a standard short track? Why don't we take it back to Daytona? I understand those thought processes, but what NASCAR is trying to do with this race is make it a true exhibition where you're trying to showcase the sport to markets that don't usually talk about the sport or maybe aren't typically your base NASCAR fans, to try to get them buzzed up going into the Daytona 500 to get them to watch.
Yeah.
And I like this format of this race. I liked it being in LA the last 3 years. I think it's time to move it probably after this year to try to get to another market.
The way they were
Um,
talking, it seems like that's a done deal. It's
it,
gone.
it it seems that way. It seems like Canada's on the table, possibly Mexico, maybe some other places. But I really like the fact that we can take the track and put it anywhere at these
That's the proof
markets.
of concept I think they were going for here, and making it 3 years, I think, is a good thing as well, because it proves that it can be done, and it can be done and repeated. So yeah, this is like you could take this thing on the road anywhere now.
Yeah, in that first year, it was like, wow, that race was bad. So it was horrible. The next gen car was not ready for that race.
Yeah.
The next year, it was a little better, a little bit more of a crash fest. Still no real pure passing. This year, we saw some pretty good passing. We saw just enough of the crashing on track to make it compelling there, but it wasn't egregious. It wasn't stupid. And I felt at the end of the day, there was a compelling question of who would win the race. in those last 10 laps, it was like, okay, is it going to be Hamlin? Is it going to be Ty Gibbs? Is it going to be Joey Logano? And then all of a sudden, whoa, there's Kyle Busch, Ryan Blaney in the mix. There was
Yeah.
enough question there to make you go, okay, that was a real race. It felt good. And I think if we take this track, plop it in any market they want, we get a similar result now that everybody has gotten to work on these next-gen cars. We now know what the track will be everywhere we go. This will be the track anywhere they drop this off at. I like it, and I hope this format stays for years to come in different markets.
You probably know more about this than I do. Is it like a giant puzzle? Like these are giant pieces they can just move around, or is it actually paved? Or
yeah, so the surface itself is all paved. All the walls and
right?
stuff are things they bring out and kind of put together like a puzzle. The surface itself is actually asphalted down, paved, and everything, and it's
Okay.
there. And then they break it up and then take it away.
So basically, you just need a football-sized field or area, and you can put it in anywhere with those exact dimensions, and you're ready to go.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I think baseball stadiums are in play because they typically have a little bit more free space. I think, right?
Yeah, I think you could fit it in there. I mean, they
Yeah.
fit football fields in the middle of like Oakland, for instance. They did that. So
yeah, some of those huge soccer stadiums out in the world, I think would be a good spot to put one of these things. So
yep.
a lot of it's now at this point logistics on getting things to other countries if we're doing that or other markets. But I really like the concept, and I think this race finally showed that this can work. First 2 years was a little questionable. This race was really good.
All right. So who won?
That's the question, right? That's the big question. So
we did a lot of talking, and we haven't gotten to the winner yet.
At the end of the day, it was everyone's favorite race car driver, Denny Hamlin.
Yes.
The fan favorite.
All right. He is so awesome.
Yeah,
Such
and
a
so
great driver.
he is. He is a good driver.
Yes.
As far as how people feel about him, that's the question. But at the end of the day, he gets it done again. And this was a big question mark race for him too, because he's coming off the shoulder surgery. There were some questions on how he would bounce back, if he would even be ready for this race. He was ready for the race, performed well, qualified on pole, won the race after a pretty good battle down the stretch with Ty Gibbs and other guys. So I think based on that, I think the shoulder is good to go.
Yeah, he mentioned in his post race that he was starting to feel it, and it was just enough of an event to start feeling it, but he would be totally ready to go for Daytona.
Yeah, so that's good news. Him starting off strong, I know a lot of fans don't like it, but at the end of the day, it gets people buzzed up and excited, and they love to hate Denny Hamlin. And if he's doing well, that means they've got something to root against, which is better than just no noise at all. So it's good.
Yep.
You've got to have that villain in the sport. And when Kyle Busch moved to Richard Childress Racing, it was almost like he went from being a heel to a face, and people now like him. So now we need somebody to hate. And it seems to be Denny Hamlin, and he's been taking that role in stride. By the way, he really loves to egg on the fans. He did the "Hey, I beat your favorite drivers" thing again, which he says he's retiring now.
Okay.
Feels it's a little played out. Plus, his dad kind of told him it was a little too cocky, and so he's going to side with his dad on it and stop it.
Dad still has influence.
Dad still has influence. If you saw the Netflix docuseries, his dad was very well featured in that as well. But yeah, so it's interesting. It'll be a fun season, but the big question marks I have were shoulders for Chase Elliott and Denny Hamlin. Both drivers made it through the entire main event, and it seems like no issues. So that's a good thing.
And we had some angry drivers, Joey Logano and Ty Gibbs.
Dude, and they weren't the only ones either. But
no,
yeah,
wasn't Chastain. He spun somebody.
Yeah, Chastain and Reddick were mad. And then you also had Stenhouse was mad at John Hunter Nemechek during the halftime break. There was a lot of emotions for a race that ultimately means nothing as far as
nothing
goes. And it's really supposed to just be a fun exhibition event. These guys were pretty juiced up, and it's good to see the emotions already flying before we even get to Daytona. This could be a pretty fun year. I think that the drivers with the Netflix docuseries now understand we can be ourselves. It was a thing where we were locked in this corporate pitchman thing there for a while, and we couldn't really let the expletives fly or let our personality show through. I feel like the Netflix buzz that they've gotten from that show has shown them, okay, we were all cussing and doing stuff in that and showing who we were, and that went well. Maybe we should do more of that. So maybe these guys won't feel, censored internally when they're trying to do something at the racetrack.
As they shouldn't be. I mean, if you're going to do something like that, or if you're going to have emotions, which humans do, it should be allowed.
Now, that being said, we don't want like fist fights every 2 seconds because that doesn't feel authentic either.
Yeah.
But what we saw were people genuinely upset about being used up or moved up the racetrack in situations they didn't think they needed to be moved up the racetrack in. And it'll be interesting to see if these feuds carry over to Daytona. If somebody chooses not to draft with somebody, I don't think Joey Logano is going to be pushing Ty Gibbs to a Daytona 500 win this year. So we're going to see if those impacts from the clash have any bearing on Daytona, which I'm sure it will. These guys will not forget who wronged them just a couple weeks before. And that may play into who wins the Daytona 500.
There you go. There you go. All right. So Clash done. Anything else we got to put a period on? I think we got it
feel
all
like
in.
we did pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
The interesting thing was I saw that there was a lot of passing that happened. We talked about Ryan Blaney going from dead last to third. Bubba Wallace got spun at one point after being in the top 10, got his way back up to the top 10, ultimately got spun again towards the end. But there was a lot of movement in this field. People were able to move, and that gives me a lot of hope for the short track package as we go throughout the year. Obviously, they were using last year's short track package in this event, but the fact these guys have had chances to work on these cars more and the new package possibly helps this thing kind of go over the top where we have good short track racing again.
Yeah. So looking ahead to Daytona, fans probably wondering, is Rowdy going to be back for Fantasy NASCAR? I shot him an email last week and knowing the answer, of course, I just wanted to be polite about it. And absolutely, he is all in. He's going to be back for your Fantasy NASCAR stuff, I'm presuming next week, because Daytona's 2 Sundays from now. We've got that little football game in the way, though.
Yeah, I know. Why is it always right there in the middle of things?
It's amazing how NASCAR did that with the scheduling and stuff. So yeah, Daytona 500, not this Sunday, but the following Sunday. And of course, we got the duels on Thursday. When is qualifying now? It used to be the Sunday before, but that's long ago, right?
Yeah, now it's Wednesday night. So
okay, so we got Wednesday night, Thursday, and then other stuff on the weekend. You got Xfinity and trucks, and of course the big race on Daytona 500 Sunday.
That's right. And we've got, entries are piling in. We're probably looking at about 50 entries for the Xfinity Series race. We've got 50 entries for ARCA. That's wild. We haven't seen more than 40 entries in ARCA since 2018. So,
and you want to see Rex? Watch ARCA at Daytona.
Watch ARCA at Daytona, especially if we have a full field. Watch ARCA. If you're looking for that, go for that for sure. Lots of entries all the way around. We're already in territory where people are going to be going home for the 500. Your boy Jimmy Johnson's one of them that's in danger, has to work his way into this thing.
And it's usually like 4 spots that are actually truly open, right? So
yeah. And for Jimmy, though, by the way, I think he's going to be safe, but there is question because they're moving manufacturers to Toyota this year, so there's some uncertainty there on how they're going to perform out of the box with their new manufacturer. So what if Jimmy Johnson goes home for the Daytona 500?
There's no Hall of Fame provisional?
I mean, there should, but there's not.
Man, no champions provisional, nothing.
Not in Cup, no. In Xfinity and Truck there is, but not in Cup anymore. Once the charter system was put in, it's 36 guaranteed spots, and the last 4 are based on qualifications. So there you go.
What does the guy have to do?
Seriously, what's the guy got to do, man?
That could be edge of your seat right there for sure.
It most likely will be, and it always is, no matter who it is. So even if it's not Jimmy Johnson clinging to hope, there's going to be somebody else in that situation. It always comes down to the last few laps in those duels. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes.
So who's the power plant under those Toyotas?
It would be TRD. They all go through TRD. Joe Gibbs Racing heavily allianced with Legacy and Toyota, but yeah, it all goes through TRD.
Okay, because so no more Hendrick power underneath, is almost a guarantee for a pole position or second.
Yeah.
In the past for Jimmy.
That's the thing that kind of hurts. You go from having that stable, we're going to have the best thing under us at Daytona to what do we have? I don't know.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Sure. All right. Well, I mean, obviously we're going to get more into the 500 next week, but we just kind of wanted to mention the schedule moving forward in terms of what we're looking for in racing and all that kind of stuff. We've got Rowdy on board, so that's in place. So exciting stuff to come. What about headlines? What do we got going on there?
Man, we have tons and tons and tons of stuff.
Really?
We always have tons of stuff, right?
All right. I'll take your word for it. I thought there was like nothing going on after the Clash.
Nothing?
I haven't looked at my computer in a while.
Oh,
TobyChristieCom, Origin Unreachable.
See, I told you, as we're doing this show, it's being flipped. So we will have some new stuff there at TobyChristieCom very soon, possibly by the end of this show, hopefully.
Wow.
But yeah, so we've got some new stuff. We've got Blaster. Remember they were on the 78 card the last couple seasons. They will be a primary sponsor for Michael McDowell, the number 34 Front Row Motorsports team at Pocono and several other races this season. So pretty cool to see a new primary sponsor move over to the 34 team with the 78 team, selling their charter and going part-time this year. So that's good to see for the 34. We've got big news that dropped just before this show. We've got Raja Karuth finally announcing his 2024 plans. He will run a third Spire Motorsports truck, the number 71, full-time in the 2024 NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series.
Okay.
So that's pretty big. And then we've got, Sirius XM has continued their relationship with Toyota. They'll sponsor Ty Gibbs and Tyler Reddick. So they're a big fan of people named Ty or Tyler. They'll sponsor them this year in the Cup Series.
Yeah, and Kyle Larson turned some laps in Phoenix.
He did, yes. As he approaches his Indianapolis 500 bid, the Hendrick 1100, he ran roughly 200 or so laps in a test session.
Wow.
What was it? Monday afternoon. It was supposed to be Tuesday morning, but with weather in the area, they moved up his test to Monday night. And he felt really good about it. He was very happy that he tried a different track than like Indianapolis because it gave him a chance to feel the car when it wasn't 100% aerodynamically perfect.
Didn't he say something like, I finally got the car to where I'm uncomfortable?
Yeah, he finally said he got a chance to see how he felt uncomfortable in IndyCar. Nearly wiped out during the session on his final run, saved it. Learned a lot about the car control in the Indy cars during that session. So ultimately, it's not a 2.5 mile super speedway like Indianapolis that he was running at, but the mile at Phoenix may actually help him understand how to be comfortable in those high speeds later on once we hit May.
Yeah, for sure. And it's all about seat time and comfort level and getting to know the car and all that stuff.
Definitely, for sure.
Tony Stewart, we're going to make changes if results aren't better in 24.
Yeah, he really put his team on notice. And I mean, honestly, the social media messaging for that team this whole offseason has been that things need to change. They are not happy with the results. People on social media have really been giving them a hard time over the last couple seasons anyway. So with Kevin Harvick leaving, it's go or shut up time for that team. And I think I think they've got enough motivation. Rodney Childers is smart enough as well, but that team's gonna be just fine.
Kevin Harvick fit right in, by the way. It sounded great. He knew his stuff. He looks great. I mean, I think that's a good addition to the Fox team.
And they have the benefit that he's been doing the drivers only broadcast for so long, and he's always been really, really good at it. And he even did a lot of Xfinity broadcasting as well. So I feel good about that. I'm with you. I feel like he added a lot to that booth because before it was Mike Joy trying to keep things on the rails and Clint Boyer kind of just sporadically ADHDing his way through the broadcast. But you got Kevin Harvick there right in the middle that kind of keeps things straight as well. So there's still a little bit of goofiness with the Clint stuff, but it really keeps it reined in where it's supposed to be, which is nice.
Well, not only that, and obviously this isn't going to last for too long, but he's fresh out of the car. So,
fresh out of the car, and he's a Cup Series champion. No disrespect meant to Clint Boyer at all, but he's accomplished more than most drivers will ever accomplish in the sport.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I wonder if he's going to keep his word and never, ever step foot in a Cup Series car. I think he might be the one that is true to that word.
I feel like the Cup thing is for sure. I think he steps into several other different kinds of cars, whether it be late models, super late models, whether it be Xfinity trucks. I think he could run some of those things, but I do take him at his word that he's done with Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Jimmy's going to be the test here. He's the guy that's not running the full schedule. It's 9 races. That's a lot, but it's still not week in and week out. And we've talked about this before on the show that, stuff changes almost weekly, but certainly monthly to these cars where they've hit on something and it's completely different than it was a month ago. And of course, Jimmy being an owner, that should help, but still, he's not in the car racing.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think Jimmy, if there is anybody who's going to be able to be successful in this situation, it would be the 7-time champion. But we saw last year there were some hiccups for him. He wasn't quite comfortable after a couple of years in IndyCar. So we'll see how things go this time around.
Yep.
I really feel like with the tracks they've selected that he has a much better chance of success this time around. And I just think that extra year of comfortability. I think the Toyota simulator, because I talked to Sheldon Creed about that, who moved over to Joe Gibbs Racing this season. He said that the Toyota simulator is much more realistic as far as what you feel on the racetrack. So I think if Jimmy's getting rotation inside that Toyota Sim going into it, I think he should feel a little bit more comfortable going out on the track as well. So I feel like we see a little bit better performance out of Jimmy Johnson this time around.
He had the IndyCar simulator installed at his house. Did he put one of these Cup ones there too?
I don't know if he has that because the manufacturers don't like to give out their complete sim setup to anyone because they like to keep it in-house and
He is Jimmy
proprietary.
Johnson.
He is Jimmy Johnson though, so who knows? But we'll see. I really feel like he'll compete better this year. I don't know if he'll win races. I don't think he'll win races. But I
Yeah.
think top tens aren't out of the question a few times this year for sure.
It's such a bummer because my kids think he sucks.
Well, and
And
that's a
they make fun of me because of that. Oh, Jimmy John, he's that guy that sucks. So the other day when the with the Hall of Fame and stuff, and they were doing all these montages of how amazing Jimmy, I made them sit on the couch and watch Jimmy Johnson. They still think he sucks.
Isn't that amazing how life goes? Because literally like 5 years ago, they're like nobody would have ever said that, right?
No.
And now there's these people that get on social media and are all bold, like, oh, that guy is terrible. No, you guys have no clue. This guy is
Yeah.
one of the best guys we've ever seen. Literally any high pressure situation, championship on the line, whatever the case was, he always came through.
5 in a row with different cars, different championship formats, different everything.
They
5 in a
tried
row.
to make sure it couldn't happen, and it still happened. It's just one of those things you'll never see again. And people won't truly understand how miraculous and incredible it was until we're 30 years from now and still nobody's done it.
Yeah.
At that point, people will start understanding the gravity of what we saw live and in person. But if you were there watching it live and in person, you pretty much knew at that point because we hadn't seen that to that point either. So
Yeah.
it was pretty special.
It was amazing. All right. We got that little football game coming up this weekend. We might as well, we'll throw our picks in there. I'm going to tell you that I know enough about football, but I don't follow it weekly. I don't know the ins and outs of all that. I know the rules enough to share with my kids and teach them about it and that sort of thing. But I don't actually know which team is better, but I'm going Chiefs, and I think they're going to dominate.
Wow, going Chiefs and think they're dominating. You're a big Swiftie, huh?
I don't think it has anything to do with it, but no, I think their QB is part of it.
Patrick Mahomes is pretty good. Brock Purdy's pretty good, by the way, too, for the 49ers. And that team overall, I think, is the better assembled team. They've got a lot more offensive pieces, guys that can actually catch the ball. So I'm going to go 49ers. I think it ends up being a close game, though. I think it's a close game that comes down to the end because the Chiefs do have a really good defense.
Yep.
And that defense has been pretty good against people that run the West Coast offense like the 49ers do. But I think there's just enough there for the 49ers to pull this off.
All right, perfect. Wouldn't it? Of course, we're picking different teams.
We
By the
always
way,
do different.
I know. And we didn't talk about this ahead of time at all.
We didn't. I had no clue we were talking about the Super Bowl at all. So that threw me for a loop. I wasn't ready for it. So that's
You
cool.
mean the big game?
The big game, yes.
By the way, my kids, more specifically, my older son, is going for the 49ers, and not for any reason you would ever come up with, ever. The reason? He is a coaster enthusiast, a roller coaster enthusiast.
I thought you know like a drink coaster. I was like, okay.
No. Yeah, one of these.
Strange.
Yeah, that is strange. He collects them. No, and Great America, for those that don't know, the theme park Great America is literally in the parking lot of the 49ers stadium. You could see it from every coaster. It's right across the way, and that's the reason he's going for the 49ers.
Okay, that's quite the reason.
Yep.
So you're going with the Chiefs due to Taylor Swift and the quarterback, apparently.
Right. You'd think I'd go for the 49ers because I'm from California, but I don't know. I'm just not feeling it.
Although you're more like a Chicago guy at heart sometimes, aren't you?
No, not with sports. No.
I
can't wait for my Dodgers to take the field.
Could you
I hear they're going to
stuck as like a Bears fan for all these years.
Yeah, no. I hear the Dodgers might be good this year.
Really?
Yeah. That's what I'm hearing.
They picked up a few people, huh?
A few prospects, yeah.
Yeah, there's just a couple all right guys.
It's like an all-star team.
Hey man, my Rangers finally won a World Series, so I don't really care what happens from here out. I'm good. I'm on borrowed money at this point. I'm playing with house money. I'm good.
Yeah, well, you had several Dodgers on the team, so that's why.
I'll take it.
All right, let's wrap things up, and we'll go full on next week for the Daytona 500, and we kick off the real stuff for the 2024 NASCAR season. Points on the line, first race of the year, and yeah, good stuff. So this has been the Final Lap Weekly. Catch us next week right here when we will preview Daytona, the Daytona 500, the Great American Race, the track too tough to tame. Wait, no, that's left over from somewhere else. Toby, you and I will chat next week.
We sure will.
And we'd like to thank our current list of Patreon paying people back for 2024. And that list includes...
Man, we have a massive, massive list of humanity here. We have to thank them all. Thank you. Seriously. We've got a brand new one, I believe. I think this is new. I don't remember seeing this before. Aaron Spinelli.
Yep.
Thank you, Aaron. We appreciate you. We've got Devin, of course, one of our sponsors we mentioned at the top of the show. We've got Lalo, Louisville Max, our longtime listener, longtime buddy over there. We appreciate you, Louisville Max, for sticking around. We've got Robert Keene, Mr. Jimmy B, Jimmy James, 1983. Quentin Whitaker, my buddy from Daytona. It's just like a little bit more than a week away from me seeing Quentin again. So pumped about that. We've got Simon Green from across the pond, Troy Clark from Down Under, Peter Johansson, David Reed, Evan Taylor, Mike Hamilton, Nick Reed, Scott Clark, Alex Taylor. We've got Justin Kapasinskis. He's the man. Huge Kyle Larson fan. I'm sure he's excited for the Indy 500 this year. And of course, we've got the longest tenured listener in the history of this show, Charles K. Miller. And I would be remiss without mentioning the original patron of the show, Joe Bike, the man, the myth, the legend. Thank you, everybody on this list. Seriously, from the bottoms of our hearts. Let's get chugging along towards Daytona, Kerry.
Yeah, patreon.com/thefinallap if you would like to join in on the giving fun.